red Solo cup. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Glad to have you back on this Monday afternoon. I hope you all had a wonderful and beautiful Mother's Day weekend. Moms, I hope you had a good time and everybody loved and doted on you, right? You just relaxed and put your feet up, I'm sure, right? Yeah, that never happens. I know, but I do hope that you had a wonderful weekend. So welcome back to the channel. Listen, I was going to film this in the kitchen because my kitchen is all cleaned up. You know, like twice a year when you're like, don't touch anything. If you come in here, I'm taking your name down and I'm going to hunt you down, you know. But here's the deal. I have to have some handle replaced on my door. It won't unlock. It's the weirdest thing. So James in there, he's making all kinds of racket, finishing up, trying to fix my door handle. Crazy. So I said, well, we'll just take him into the office. Welcome back to the office. You don't mind. You can hear me all right. And there's a little air condition, so that's good, right? That's right. So I've been thinking about doing this video. I've mentioned this before. I've probably, I've gone into some details on a couple of videos, but I've never made like one video on it. And I think that it's something really, I hope, the hope is that you learn something from it and that hopefully it benefits somebody out there, okay? Everybody needs to do what works best for them, so always know that, okay? I get it, but considering what we are seeing in this country and globally, economically, because here's the thing, somebody might say, well, just talk about your chickens. Yes, I can talk about chickens, but the bottom line is, you know, the cost of my feed bill hasn't gone down. So I'm still kind of irritated about inflation. So I'm going to talk about that still, right? That's what's so funny is like, you can go right now and you can see that, for example, egg prices have come down, right, at the grocery stores. Thank God. I mean, at least they've come down. But what you have to remember is, even though they went through the roof, and were crazy there for several months, and you had all this hoopla. What were you paying a year ago, 2 years ago, 5 years ago? So even though it's come down, are you really truly better off? And the thing that is amazing is that when you talk about the price of something, one or two or three things have come down, you can then turn around and see the prices of all these other things that have gone up, and it just cancels it. Or it makes it worse, depending on what we're talking about. So, you know as well as I do, we're not out of the woods on anything like that. So here's what I want to talk about with you today, okay? I was laid off and lost my job during the 2008 Great Recession, okay? And I want this can be part of my testimony. This can be a learning lesson. I know all of these things that I say to you are true because I have lived it, okay? What do I mean by this? So I'm going to tell you the story in as brief as I can, but to the highlight, give you the highlights so that you can make better decisions to hopefully save you maybe your job or your family or your scenario. This is advice or a conversation that I would have with anyone, especially my own children or very close friends and family, which you are. So this is going to work out just fine. So I did lose my job in May of 2008. But the good thing about it is we were prepared for that, not because we knew this was going to happen, but because my goal as a wife and mother was at some point to come home and be a stay-at-home mom and raise my children, okay? Because of that, well, that goal, that acting upon that goal saved us. Let me take you back. Valentine's Day, 2007, James and I both worked full-time, opposite shifts. We had 3 children under the age of 6 years old, 6 to 7 years old. And, I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. For whatever reason, on Valentine's Day, I'll never forget it, I would call what I had, to physically describe it, I would call it maybe an anxiety attack, a panic attack. Now I could tell you in 2008, I knew that God had convicted me. And I literally went into a tailspin because for whatever reason, I woke up to the fact that we were in way too much debt. We had 3 young children. We were working our tails off, and we were living beyond our means. Okay, I think a lot of us have been there before. Maybe some of us are there still. And sometimes scenarios present themselves where you get a little too deep in something, but you got to fight to get your way out. Okay, so this can apply to anybody. This is a lesson that can apply to a lot of things. So I basically, I remember crying and saying to James, what if one of us loses our jobs? I had no idea of what was going on with the housing bubble and the economy. I mean, I was young, working full-time mother of, breastfeeding and had a baby. And I wasn't focusing on a lot of the things that say we talk about now because, well, different circumstances. I was focused on so many other things and I was a lot younger, right? So I was focused on motherhood, raising a baby and other little critters. And so I don't know what happened. I just realized we were in way too much debt because my fear was, I remember saying to James, what if one of us loses our jobs? My husband worked at a coal plant and I worked in an establishment of basically retail, right? I'm a graduate gemologist. So I told him, I said, I'm just having anxiety about it. I don't know what to do. And my husband is so wonderful. He said, well, let's just sell the house. We had a beautiful house. I'm not going to lie. I mean, I love where I live now and everything, but I'm saying, if you really, we had built this home and it was beautiful. And James said, well, let's just sell the house. Let's take our money. Let's pay off all our debts. Let's downsize and see where we land. And we'll make a decision on whether or not you can quit, you can quit your job. How quickly can you quit your job so that I can work and you can stay home and raise the boys and be a stay-at-home mom? That was the goal. Remove the debt as much as possible, hopefully save up some money, and for me to come home to raise my children. That was what we were wanting to do. Well, so that's what we did. I mean, we hustled. We sold everything. We downsized our home. And we got to a point within a year and 15 months from February of 2007 to May of 2008. The whole idea during that time period was sell the house, downsize, pay off all the debt, do all of these things, and start saving some money up, and then we'll make a decision about when I was going to quit my job and come home. We sold the home in 1 month. That was total God work right there. That was for sale by owner. And we got us a different little house and we paid everything off. And the goal was for me at that point, for me to work long enough to build a nest egg. I'll tell you what, it's a whole lot different going to a job you don't want to go to when you know that you're there for, you have a purpose of, it was like there was a light at the end of the tunnel. It became, it just became a whole lot easier to stomach, right? So that's what we did. I had no idea what was coming our way. And in May, the end of May of 2008, after I met my husband and my little baby Gabriel for lunch at Wendy's, big spenders, right? We went to Wendy's and had hamburger. When I went back to work, I was given my papers. A lot of people lost their jobs during that time. And thank God that I had been convicted. I mean, when that happened, I had within that day, I remember that day or the next day, I remember having another emotional episode, not because I was scared of my scenario. I mean, obviously losing your job is never a good thing, right? But I realized that the year before on that Valentine's Day, I didn't just have like some crazed panic attack. I realized that I had been convicted. God was moving me. God was showing me, and we were obedient. We were obedient. We were super obedient. The only debt that we had to our name was literally our house. Obviously, that's very, if you can get down to just having the house, you're doing better than 99% of the population. So, just that. But my point is because we had done that, we had already reestablished ourselves with living only on James's income. I had been socking cash away, because that's what my check was for, was we're going to sell everything, downsize, pay everything off, adjust. We're going to adjust to living only on James's income and see see how that goes. And any money that I make is just being put away, put away, put away. And I'm telling you right now, I can tell you with all 99% certainty that had we not made those moves and acted upon all of these things, we very likely in the end probably would have had to have filed for bankruptcy. That was the beginning of my life in terms of being frugal and having a life of more frugal living and getting into more, well, where you see me now. I wanted to raise my children. I wanted to eventually maybe get out of the city. I wanted to grow more of my own food. I wanted to homeschool my children. I wanted to do all of these things, but the almighty dollar, unfortunately, kept us from being able to make that move. Now, I understand not everybody can do exactly what I just talked about today. I mean, I know somebody's going to say, well, I can't quit my job and I can't do these things, or I'm single. I understand all of these things. The point that I'm trying to make here is, and which is the same point that I make to my children, my boys now, is you need to work. You need to save. You do not need to be going into debt. Do not be going into debt. And you need to move upon the things that you know that God is showing you to do, because he will. He'll show up and he'll show out. And then it's up to you whether you follow. And so, I've been thinking about all of these things. So I don't want to say that we were prepared for 2008, like we knew all of these things were coming in 2008. We really, honestly didn't have a clue. This was a totally different scenario. It's not like now where we are actively seeing, which, back then a lot of people did. And they were made fun of for it. In 2006 and 2007, you see all these stories of these, these folks that are just awesome. And they made all of these predictions and they were right. Well, you know what? Everybody made fun of them. People on social media made fun of them. People on the news made fun of them. And unfortunately, they got to turn around in 2008, 2009 and say, I told you so. I mean, I'm sure they didn't take any pleasure in doing so. So here's what I mean by that is, I wasn't doing all the things that I'm doing now to prepare for what we feel is coming now. But we were definitely prepared in the most important way, which is why I hammer down. There's a little fly in here. This is why I hammer so hard on the whole fact of please get as debt-free as you can. The debt collectors are going to want their money. You're going to be paying your debts despite what you think is going to happen to, or what you see happening to the dollar. None of us are going to escape that, okay? If you can't necessarily pay off debt as fast as you want to, definitely try your best, but also find other ways to prepare your home. I cannot begin to tell you how many people have told me on videos and emails and in conversations how their preparedness has saved them in all kinds of different scenarios. Job loss, when they were sick, etc., etc. If they alone had a well-stocked pantry and the basic items in their home that they know they need and use, and they thought ahead and they just kept on, just like we saw back in 2020 through 2021. For those of you that lived that just like me, we didn't have any problems having things because we were already prepared. See, transitioning into this lifestyle, once I lost my job and once I saw with my own eyes and felt with my own heart and could see in my bank account and psychologically and emotionally deal with the fact of I was obedient and it saved me. This is what this lifestyle is about. It's different for everybody, but and that's why I'm saying what I do may not necessarily be what you do or what you need to do, but we can't be too far off the map. Being debt-free as possible, picking up on items that you know you eat, you know you need, you know your children need, you know that your body needs, you know that your pets need, as often as you can. In the end, it is keeping you from having to suffer through further inflation. And if something, God forbid, does happen, which we rebuke it every day, don't we? Then it's that many more items or that much more stuff that's going to see you through a hard time. Can you imagine, I've said this before, what do you think somebody, a farmer or anybody for that matter, what advice do you think somebody would tell you if you could go back to, say, 1931, people that made it that far and had seen the crash? And what advice do you think somebody during that time period would tell you? What would they tell you to do with your money? What would they have told you to buy? What would they have told you to grow? What would they have told you to do had they known the crash of 1929 was going to happen? I think a lot of that advice that you think they would tell you would be the exact same thing that we are talking about right now. Okay? So here's what I'm saying. If you are convicted to change this lifestyle that you're in or continue on the path that you're on like me, there is a reason you're being told this. There is a reason you're feeling this. It's not just because of your eyes, and it's not because of just what you know, your common sense and what you hear. Folks, this is what God wants us to do, in my opinion. He wants us to be as debt-free as possible. He wants us to pay our debts. He wants us to be responsible. He wants us to be well-skilled people. Because when we do these things, we quote, in a sense, we save ourselves, but that allows us to be able to help other people. And that's what we're supposed to do, when and if and how we can. So I don't know if you have ever heard me talk about this, and you know, there's a lot of, this is really a conversation that we could sit down with a cup of coffee and a slice of pecan pie and just go to town with, as opposed to me making, you know, a 20-minute video. But the fact of the matter still remains. All of these things are coming back around again. How soon this happens, I don't know, but I can tell you people are losing their jobs every single day. And I want to say this much. If you are in any type of retail situation, be it cars, in my mind, be it in the housing market, be it in typical retail, be it clothing, shoes, jewelry, anything like that, and especially if you're working on, maybe you serve tables. If you're working in, if you are in an environment where your paycheck completely depends upon the sales of something, please be putting money away as much as you can. Okay? You've got to have cash to operate on. And like I said, you have to sit down and do the hard math of how much am I making, how much more can I save versus what can I pay off, what can I prepare. Those are decisions and things that conversations that you're going to have with yourself with a simple calculator, a piece of paper, and a pen. But I hope you're having them, okay? It is the simple moves of life that your grandmother did that are going to save you. Being as debt-free as possible, saving as much as possible, repurposing as much as possible, changing your perspective on the things that your needs versus your wants. That's a big thing for us here in the United States because, again, you know, everybody's walking around with an iPhone, just about, or some type of phone. I love it when people tell me that they can't afford to prepare, but they're talking, they can't afford 5 cans a week to put into their pantry, but I watch them talk on their iPhone. That's a lot of cans of food. So don't let that nonsense distract you And don't let that nonsense stop you. You have to have an honest conversation with yourself and realize that this isn't just about getting through a hard time or preparing for a hard time. It is a way of life. And let me tell you, once you get here, once you get there, you're never going to want to go back, because you're the walking through the valley of that type of experience of, had I not done these things, had I not listened, had I not, it was so scary. I was scared to death. Scared to death. And, you know, it was so funny because I remember calling my husband, and I remember coming home, you know, the day I'd lost my job, and I remember him hugging me saying, now you know why you were told, you know, now you know. Just think, have we not done all of these things? What if this had, you know, what if you had never cried to me that day? What if you had never said, what if we had, here we are, and we're going to be okay. And we were, and here I am. And I'm still okay. But we've not stopped this lifestyle. In fact, we amped it up 100 times, and we've tried to stick to our guns in terms of making wise financial decisions for our family. We don't live a lavish lifestyle. We don't go on vacations. We don't go and and I'm not saying you shouldn't enjoy yourself. I'm not saying that you shouldn't have nice things, but if you have to choose between using a credit card and being responsible because you feel like you're owed a trip to the beach this summer, I got bad news for you. That's a no-win for you. If you are eat up to your eyeballs in debt and you're seriously planning an expensive trip to the beach this summer, I'm sorry to tell you, your priorities are out of whack. You have got to work on home. This is what that means when people say to you, get your house in order. That's first and foremost a lot of things, but your debts, your health, your perspective, your preps. How are you managing your life? And we've got to be hardcore on it right now. I hope this video finds you well, and I hope that it's received in a positive light that I'm trying to send it. Like I said, I could talk all afternoon about this because it was one of those moments in my life where I listened, just like moving here. I listened. It just out of the blue, it's like boom, and overwhelmed with emotion. Don't know why I'm being told what I'm being told. Don't know why I'm feeling what I'm feeling. But I listened, and I prayed, and I talked to my husband, and we went with it. And it's all for a very positive reason. You are likely, probably, being told these things too. If you pray and talk to God, He's going to guide you. He's going to tell you what you need to be doing. Not patera. It's just whether or not you are going to accept it. Like, subscribe, and share, guys. We appreciate you being here. A lot of videos coming up this week. Thanks for sitting with me this afternoon for this little red solo cup chat. And I appreciate you. I hope you had a great weekend. We're going to have a great week coming up. And guess what? I told you I would be planting in my big garden. You knew I would. She ain't going to back off those gardens over there. Well, she's so silly. I know. Well, that's what we're doing. All right, guys. We appreciate you. Like, subscribe, and share, and we'll see you in the next video.